Okay, and we're live. Welcome to the channel. I'm Chris, the Atheist Pastor. Please remember to like and share the video. Well, if it's something you like. Oh, hang on. Oh, sorry, I was getting feedback there. We are live, and stupid me just realised I had the other one in the background, so I got myself on delay by about 5 seconds.
That's where the feedback came from.
so that's where all that was. So yeah, great professionalism here. This is what happens when you're the noob. So as I was saying, help me get better by liking and sharing. Subscribe to the channel so you can point out all the other things that I don't do well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a thing. Hopefully I don't do that one again. So today I'm joined all the way from the UK by David Worley. So David, welcome to the channel.
Hello. I'm just making sure that I've definitely got enough data so that I don't end up having an interview like I did with Prophet of Zod, where I ended up just sort of crashing and there wasn't any internet. So I should be fine.
That's all right. You'll be fine. I mean, I've already done the obligatory stuff up at the start of the show, so it shouldn't matter from here. So myself and David first spoke on Truth Wanted it was about a month back. Had a conversation, and it was one of those conversations that we thought could continue. And I guess time zone differences, Australia to the UK, it's made it a little bit of a challenge, but we've managed to get together. And in the meantime, as that's happened this week, David has found himself, I guess, involved in a bit of a controversial interview, to put it mildly, with a fella called Lance Gregorchuk. So, David, if you can sort of, for anyone who hasn't seen what's going on, if you want to, I guess, give a little bit of a background on who Lance Gregorchuk is and why you were talking to him.
Sure. So I interview various different people from the community, to which point I have to remind you that we'll have to get you on sometime.
Absolutely.
To be reciprocate the favour. And Lance was on to promote Atheist Convention. This is a convention that's happening in Brighton, in the UK, what I would consider the LGBTQ plus whatever other letters you want to add, hub of the UK. That's typically, it's a green area. That's where they have a green MP, the only green MP in the UK, and that's very lefty sort of area. And so the conference itself is consisting of Saturday and Sunday of speakers, and then on the Saturday night there's a gala banquet where there's going to be an auction of Christopher Hitchens, a portrait of Christopher Hitchens. 10 awards are going to be given for atheists doing various different achievements throughout the year, and Richard Dawkins was going to receive the what was it, a lifetime achievement, like a lifetime service to rational thinking or something like that.
Okay.
So he was on to promote this particular event. There was already a David Worley discount that was offered during the podcast itself. And he was basically extremely obnoxious throughout. And it got worse. It got worse.
Yeah, I think that's putting it mildly. I think to say he was obnoxious, I was watching it and I just scratching my head, just trying to work out whether he was drunk, extremely sort of on another planet. He just didn't seem. I mean, I would hope that's not him normally, but he's not necessarily a presenter, so to say, but he's funding it. Is that correct?
So yeah, if I could quickly find the actual website, because I've been going back and forth so much. I only have to put an A into Google and it comes up. So atheist-convention.com, and if you're looking at what would end up being speakers, no, I'm going to try and find it, but it does describe himself on the website, and he's basically let's look at the program. A welcome from John Richards, then Lance Gregorchuk comes on straight afterwards. So he's a stand-up comedian, author, father of an Olympian, and son of Catholic parents, believed until he was 13. And then goes on. Some other part of the website actually says what he does, but he's like a communications person between the UK, America, and that sort of thing. I'm going to try and find that exact thing it says on the website, because he doesn't communicate as well as a communicator should.
No, I had a bit of a look on YouTube to see if he had any content, because I'd never heard of him until I guess, you've almost made him famous this week, probably not for the right reasons. But all I could find was things from 9 years ago in Germany where he was selling sales course and marketing courses. So I just sort of got the impression that he might have been, I guess, one of these people who wanted to be in the community, and I guess he essentially funded this so he could share a stage with some big names.
Yeah,
that was the impression I got, but that's probably speculation.
Let's clarify. He knows people. I mean, Dawkins is at this event. Krauss is at this event. Unra, Cosmic Skeptic, they were all going to speak. Mariam Namazi, a few others. So he's well connected. Yeah,
definitely. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring up, I guess, part of the clip where it's probably brought out the controversy. So to give everyone, I guess, a bit of a background prior to it, he was trying to, or saying that he wanted to have you as some kind of presenter, and he was fairly obnoxious in the way he was trying to give you tips and tell you how to do it, and ask challenging questions and things like that. And then I guess as I could see a few times, as he was saying, you've got to ask these hard questions, and I could see you were trying to get in a few times with the hard questions. So what I'm going to do is I'll bring it up now. So we'll share the actual video. So bear with me half a second.
Yeah, go for it. Hello to everybody in the live chat as well. I haven't said hello yet. I'll get to you in a minute. Just a quick one. Hey, Bubs, can't really hear the video you're playing, and I can't personally hear it very well.
All right, hang on.
But I don't know. Yeah, sound is not streamed. Theo says, "Hello, Theo and Dave and Bubs and Digital Demonic Davros."
You know the worst thing? I think I know exactly what I didn't do there, which was hit the sound button. Like I said, I am the new guy.
It's always a simple fix, and it's so annoying when it happens. Trust me. It's okay.
So we'll get that going again, but this time I'll actually add the sound to it. So it's a learning experience.
I've had much feedback saying that they don't want the audio as well throughout these few days from various different people. As I have asked people to watch it in full, that clip, and then everything that's been going on with the campaign on Twitter. So, but yeah, a lot of people have said that they don't want to listen back to the actual words that they say.
Well, what we can do is anyone who wants to mute it. We'll make some funny faces while everyone else gets listens to it, just so we've got a bit of context. So let's try this again.
I do have one question for you.
Way more prepared than you were with me, because you were not prepared with me.
I still have one question for you.
Go ahead.
Is it right to Whoa.
This is not my night.
Lawrence Krauss giving sexual allegations.
Absolutely. Please do not look at you. Look at you. Look at you. Let's look at me and look at you. You have never. Come on. You two. We're guys. We're not going to talk about this on the guy level. We're not going to talk about the cross level. We're going to talk about this guy level. You never got wrong signals. You never got wrong signals from a girl that you thought she likes me, she didn't like you, and you touched her?
I'm speaking specifically more like the...
I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm talking about you personally. Come on, dude. I did it. You did it. So, look, come on. We're not the best looking guys in the world.
I didn't. I wouldn't be able to specifically point out a moment where I thought they were leading me on. No.
Yeah, didn't know. Did you know? Come on. When you were 15, 16, 17, did you get the signals? I didn't get them.
I'm looking up at the transcript, by the way. I did bother to yeah.
So the first thing I'm going to say is I'm just going to take my hat off to how composed you were while that was happening. But what was going through your head as he's saying that?
There's it should be said that this is already an hour into it. This is roughly at the end, so he's already thinking that this has either ended, as we'll probably see in a minute. That he doesn't know whether we're live or not, and his time was up to 10 p.m. in Germany, so we did go 10 minutes over because of this, but it's well worth it. You know, if I'm being harsher on myself, I don't think, to an extent, I did deal with it. I don't think I did react in the way that somebody much more ironically prepared for that specific question was ready for it. But I am just honest. I go off the cuff, and I've been going off the cuff for 100 podcasts. And look, I when the response videos come out from various different people like Rachel or Shannon, or now Mr. Atheist last night, or for you, that's today. And Nokasuchi did one where he pointed out something that nobody else did, which is that I asked a question about 20 minutes prior, and he said, "Ooh, tough question," or something like that. And then he's now saying,
but then goes on
to answering hard, yeah. So, which is why I asked the question.
My favourite part was where he mentioned how he liked your videos, but then when you said which one do you like, and what did he say? Oh, I only watched the intros.
Yeah, me and John. John is the John Richards is somebody who's setting up the event with him. I don't know their specific roles. I wouldn't be able to differentiate them, but they're working together for this convention to create the event. So,
okay. So I guess with this happened about was it 5 days ago, roughly?
Tuesday night in the UK. So yeah.
Okay. Yep. So I guess with hindsight, what are your thoughts, I guess, now a few days later? I guess what are your thoughts on, have they changed from what your initial reaction would have been?
I don't think I would have done any better if I had prepared for that question, if I knew it was coming. As I said, with all the response videos that come out, it's right that other people do the response videos, because then you get a different perspective on everything. I was so engrossed in the fact that I was questioning on Discord with Navadia and things like that. Like, was I being groomed at this event? He was already offering like over £1,000 worth of hotels, VIP access. And as you said, this was gearing me up to launch my channel, as he put it, off air after the podcast, to speak with, say, in a TED Talks kind of way. If you've seen some of those earlier ones where they had the TED Talk, but then they sit down for a question with that guy. I assume he's called Ted. I don't know. So that sort of style was meant to be at the conference. And yeah, I've forgotten what point I was answering, but
just more, I guess in hindsight, I guess your reaction at the time, as opposed to how you feel about it now.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So some of the reactions, because I was so engrossed in what had happened to me, quite rightly, I think that
absolutely,
I didn't realize, oh, this guy's in charge of a conference. therefore they're coming up with policy as to what you should do in the event of a claim of sexual harassment or whatever it may be. And I'm thinking, the day after watching Rachel's video, watching Shannon's live stream, it's like, oh yeah, like, of course, like, there's going to be people at this conference that trust these people to deal with their situation seriously. And I didn't even click. So there's a lot of information that's come out, and specifically the way in which non-cis males, I should say, not just female creators, have come out and said, not just this is wrong, but they've reacted with rage. They've wanted to, punch me in the face, and various different things that they've said. So no, I don't think I've dealt with the situation any better.
So has Lance, has he tried to reach out to you since? I would imagine that he would be aware that there's been a backlash. Has he tried to reach out, or has there been any contact from anyone on behalf of him?
So we want to get I think it's Thursday. The only contact I've got from him, the 28th, it's now into December. Oh God, I haven't even got an advent calendar. Was that Thursday? Thursday was 28th, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
There it was, yeah. So he sent me back a message saying, David, nice interview, thanks again. We got a lot of response, mostly because of my answers on Kraus and me not being able to remember which podcast I remember of yours. You're definitely a shooting star, and I look forward to seeing you at the convention. Your room is reserved, Lance.
Okay.
I'm not going.
Wow. This guy truly is out of touch, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's so. I'm assuming at this point you've got no intention of going to the conference.
No. I have, just to clarify after all this, I'm sure you're going to mention it anyway. I started, once I got vaguely coherent, because I've been missing various bits of sleep, just trying to deal with various different avenues and being in contact with other creators that are speaking and stuff like that. So I forgot what I was going to say again. This is how busy this week is, because I've got a full-time job around this as well. So I was going to say, contacted, busy. No, what did I just say?
So we were talking about assuming you wouldn't be going to the conference anymore.
No, and then I can't remember the specific thing I was going to say then. Damn it. It will come back to me.
That all good. So
yeah.
Now there has been a lot of, I guess, online backlash, as you've mentioned. Shannon Q, Rachel Oates, Mr. Atheist Today, all putting out videos. I believe this is the first of 3 you're doing today on other people's channels. So I guess how are you doing as far as I guess the stress and the pressure? How are you coping?
Well, thank you for asking. I have now remembered that I was talking about the Twitter campaign. Sorry. I don't think I mentioned it, because I sent out a video once I was more coherent. And I'm still not really there. You could sort of tell that I'm slightly more articulate. That campaign is trying to get that clip of him saying all this shit nominated for video of the year at that gala banquet we were talking about. So they would end up having to show the video in front of people and like that sort of thing. Where that led on to, I don't know. But to answer your second question, yeah, I'm doing better. I guess I'm dealing with the situation far better than some might, I guess. But
yeah,
it's not. I guess it's jaded me. I don't really know. I'm doing fine emotionally. Like I'm not in danger or anything, but I'm just like, it's just being exposed to that on your own podcast, and then having the endless stream of comments that are now being typed as we speak on Mr. Atheist's video, on Shannon's, on Rachel's, on Nokasuchi's, on Jeff's that's in the live chat. So yeah, it's just being able to get that feedback and say, actually, as much as it sounds like an ad populum, 99% of people commenting completely agree. Not just that they were wrong, but they were so catastrophically wrong that they feel enraged by it.
Yeah, so I would imagine. I would imagine that. I guess, you know, obviously I'm not female, but I wouldn't overly be comfortable with, I guess, you know, female friends, female, you know, members of my family necessarily attending, because I guess there would be a lack of trust if that's the attitude. I think the whole, you know, boys will be boys, and you know, it happened back in the day. It was different back then. I think that's an attitude that still does get thrown out there. Probably, you know, more. Well, it shouldn't get thrown out there at all, but it's something that still seems to pop up. I guess what would you say to, I guess, those attitudes? Obviously, you know, you not for them, but I guess what's your view on, I guess, those antiquated attitudes still popping into the conversations?
You know, I don't think I've had enough time to properly think about those views. I think to an extent, I know that they exist. They're over there somewhere, and I know that there's incels that exist. I know that there's various other completely non-related things, like how we could be killed in 13 countries because of being atheist and that sort of thing. There's a dissonance between me and it, but it was that it came there, and it came that close that I was like, oh, for the first time that's actually, like, it's not over there somewhere anymore. So.
And I guess you mentioned, I guess, like the incels and groups like that, and I know they can be rather vitriolic, especially on Twitter and social media platforms. I would imagine that most of the feedback, or you mentioned most of the feedback you're getting is positive. Are you having to deal with, I guess, that other side as well?
Only to an extent. I mean, just to answer Bubs in the comments, Mr. Aces did make sure to say that you weren't the bad guy, and this, that is true. Yeah, I haven't received any personal backlash, as it were. I know that Rachel and Shannon said the same. The only reason that these people are actually doing response videos is, let's face it, the video would have got 35 views from memory, and it would have sat there and nobody else would have watched it. And it's only because I told Shannon, hey, do you want to just check this out about the hour mark? And then she got angry. Then she sent it to Rachel. I'd sent it to Rachel. Rachel that morning had come out with her response video because she was so angry about it. And then during Shannon's live stream, I saw Mr. Atheist in the comments and back and forth. So it eventually has ended up in the higher echelons, but yeah, it could have just sat there.
One thing that I thought was particularly interesting in Rachel's video, and it's something that she pointed out that I guess I wouldn't have thought of, and maybe you wouldn't have thought of because we wouldn't have been exposed to it. She mentioned that it was almost like grooming techniques, where you know, the whole knock you down and then and lift you back up and promise to help you and things along those lines. I guess, did you, upon reflection, and I know you did touch on it a little bit before, do you think that there was potentially some of that, maybe not, I guess, for anything, you know, sexual or anything like that, but do you think that there was some form of, you know, control or trying to
manipulation,
power play?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. A power play is a good way to put it, because we've been saying for a while about how people at conferences are. They're people in power. They're people you have to trust. Various different people I've spoken to and have done their own events, like when I went to Atheist Assemble or hear feedback from Faithless Forum, they're very on it when it comes to making people feel safe and secure and making sure that people's issues are addressed. What was the first part that you had said?
Just as far as
grooming. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the grooming side of it. Yeah.
So the grooming part of it, that's definitely something that I'd learned from Rachel's response video, because I didn't realize it. She looked at it and she'd framed it in that way, and it's like, oh yeah, of course, that's obvious. Like compliment, put you down. I'm the one to help you. And so you like them. Oh yeah, okay, you can help me, and then you're sort of hooked. And I was like, oh, you can have this like free VIP access to Dawkins and Krauss, and you can, even before I asked that question, he said, "What do you think? There's an offer." Kind of thing.
And when did that? Was that during the interview? Was that the first time that had been mentioned, or had he indicated earlier that you were someone he was interested in, or was it just literally an off the cuff in the middle of an interview?
Well, the funny thing is, he went through the interview, and he ranked it. What's the word? He geared it up and ramped it up. That's what I was looking for. And it eventually, by the end of the podcast, after this answer, it became, you know what, you're going to be my personal guest at the event with the VIP ticket access, which, by the way, that ticket after Christmas goes up to $1,000 at this event, closer to, what is it, 2,000 Australian dollars. And then afterwards, in the live off-air bit, he actually said various things like, I'm not stupid enough to put anything in email when it comes to that particular offer. And you'll have to take my word for this, obviously, because we weren't live, but I did try to record it. And he also said, unless you want me to offer it to somebody else. And it's like, you're clearly trying to bait me. And I was very awkward at that point, because nobody could see that. And it's just me and him. And he knows we're not live. And it's like, I'm trying to get away, and I'm like, I always try and sleep on a big decision like this. So I'll get back to you. So
now I've just seen a comment come through from Godless Scummer, which I quite like. That saying that he owes you an apology for being such a condescending prick during that interview, and that's something that really popped out to me. It's how the hell did you put up with that for an hour?
You know what? I think there's various different things. I didn't even notice that he was acting drunk during the interview. I didn't even realize, because there's some people who I have on who I have limited knowledge of, because partially I want to learn live, so you can get a live response from me as to, I've literally only just learned that about them. This is my reaction to it, and then it's more authentic, and you get that in the on the channel. And sometimes, I mean, I would never have been able to research this particular issue, so there wouldn't be anywhere on the internet to search for it. But in terms of being condescending during the whole interview, it felt like he was trying very hard to impress. It didn't feel like it was condescending. Say, again, looking at that structure that Rachel gave about the negging, or whatever it's called, where you end up giving lots of compliments. And I thought it was being more, the word would be sycophantic, just like showing adoration for the channel. And I was like, well, that's awfully kind. Like, I don't get that from anyone, like not even the people on the channel. Like,
it did some bit forced doing it. And that being said, I will be nice. I do like your channel. I do enjoy it, and I can actually tell you that I do watch some of the videos. Not all of them, and I can't memorize them, but you've certainly had some good ones. Rachel Oates last week was particularly one of my favourites, but mind you, I think anything with Rachel,
now.
I tend to. Yeah, this is me. So yes, so I'm genuinely telling you, I like your channel.
All right,
yeah.
This is you grooming me right now.
Oh, you've caught me out.
I'm aware. I've got it.
Oh dear. Well, if I'm doing that, I'm not doing a very good job. Clearly.
No, as long as you say it once and then don't say it again.
Well, no. I think I still then have to criticise you and tell you how I can help you, and only I can help you. That's how it works, isn't it?
I believe so. It's yeah.
So I guess what from here, obviously the goal at the moment is to get the word out and to make people aware. Like you said, so you originally would have had about 35 views. Is that right on the video, or?
That's what I remember of seeing the video. I specifically remembered to make a mental note because once it got out to Shannon, who was being angry about it, I know she was going to do something. When Rachel was angry and was asking, "Can I make a video on this?" I won't if you feel uncomfortable, kind of thing. It's like, okay, this something's going to happen here. So hence my tweet yesterday. Sorry to interrupt. Hence my tweet yesterday about the Eye of a Storm, because I knew Mr. Atheist had already called me the other night and said, I knew.
And has there been any word from, I guess, any of the people who were going to be at the show as to whether they're still going to be involved, or is there any word there?
So there's what's been pointed out by a couple of response videos is that the panel is majority cis male, just male, and it's only Miriam Namazi, who I saw at Atheist Assemble in London in August. She had to leave early, but she's a what would be described by people like Zara Kay, Faye the Most Gracious, and Sadia Hamid as the grandmother of ex-Muslims.
Okay.
So she came back and said she would check it out, and then because that particular conversation on Twitter was taking forever, I had muted it, but I then realized that Miriam got back to me and said that these, again, reacting exactly as you'd expect, these views are horrendous. He's such an arsehole, or whatever she said. And she's still planning to attend, but to challenge it at the event. So there is more information, but I can't give you information on others because they're in a very tricky situation.
No, of course.
In terms of, they have already been not quite baited in the same way, but this is now a choice for those people between upholding their ethics and their standards versus not taking a huge windfall in terms of the sunk cost that needs to be recouped for them. And if they do come out as saying that they aren't going to attend, then I'm going to have to do something, either create an alternative event or just simply put the word out there to help them financially. So I just want people to be aware of that before that might go down. This isn't.
Yeah. And I guess that is, that is one thing, I guess, to remember. I guess the Richard Dawkins of the world, you would imagine that he's probably doing it okay financially, but there's not a lot of money in atheist activism, especially I would imagine for the guys in the US. It's a lot of them sort of make ends meet from Patreon. None of them are living like Joel Osteen. It would probably be a lot easier for them to reconvert back to Christianity and make a fortune. So these are guys who, I guess, or guys and girls, but mainly guys in this case, who probably do rely on conferences like this to to keep food on the table. So I think we do need to appreciate that. Now, you've got a big day ahead of you, so I won't keep you too much longer. I guess as far as...
That's fine.
Yep, that's all good.
Yeah, good. We're good. Don't worry.
No, too easy. So as far as what message what message would you like to put out there to everyone? How can they, I guess, get on board and help to get the word out there?
So if you're, first and foremost, if you're attending any particular conference or convention, it's like anything that we don't really check. Just whenever you walk into a building, you know where the fire exits are, and you don't get into a car without knowing how to brake. So it's the same metaphor, really. It's making sure that you know who's organising it, why they're organising it, because there seems to be, particularly from some people in the live chat, they've said various things about Lance trying to make a quick buck out of the situation, which at least appears to be the case. Why it's so expensive, I don't know. Tickets start from something like 150, 200, so it's still like, it's not like some event you can just turn up to. I know he sold about 30 tickets. He said that before we started, and he was looking to get up to 180, which doesn't sound too much for the event, but in terms of money,
not a huge one. Yeah,
that could be anywhere up to, what would it be, 35 grand or something, 30 grand. So.
And is it a large? I guess, or wouldn't be an arena, but where it's being held, a decent sized venue, or if they're only looking at 180, probably not.
No, I think it's still a pretty good venue. I mean, there's I don't know the exact one off by heart, the actual place it's at, but it's at the local like university something or other, and then it goes into, for the gala, it goes up into a hotel. It's like a 5-star hotel where tickets are like 350 quid a night or whatever it is. So,
okay.
That's exactly what he's offering for free as well, which is like, why would you be so desperate to offer me free stuff? Anyway, sorry, I didn't actually give proper advice. So obviously check who's organising, why they're organising it, what their policy is concerning dealing with situations, harassment, whatever it may be, and make sure that's in place. Then if you want to help out with the actual Twitter campaign, we're trying to get that video out there and voted for as clip of the year. And what's so great about that is that you have to put a reason as to why you're nominating that video. So I can only encourage people to be as creative as they can and as snarky and non-specific as they can with those replies. Again, there's various different things you could do. So in that tweet, the various different tweets I've had this week, like a 43-second bit of me saying 5 things, if I can remember them. Watch the video in full. That really helps get the video out there, because then YouTube's algorithm promotes it. Secondly, search Lance Gregorchuk, his name, on YouTube, and that video should come up. As you said, there aren't too many videos of him out there, so we're just making sure that it's cemented at the very top of the video, and then preferably watch it in full that second time once you've searched Lance Gregorchuk. Again, obviously I benefit a lot from that, but it's more to do with trying to make sure people know if they were searching for his name, because I think the search engine optimization isn't just for YouTube, it's for Google as well, just generally. So I haven't bothered checking. I'll check now, but if I Google just the name Lance Gregorchuk, it might start to come up with various different things. Into Lance Gregorchuk books. It looks something on Atheist Republic from 2015. No. So hopefully we can try and get that boosted on Google. But the third thing is just share it. Fourth thing, message various different creators that are at the event. Again, it really depends on whether you want them to not attend or attend and challenge the topic. I've been going back and forth over this. I think ultimately, if the event is going ahead, I don't like two things. One, people would still be susceptible if something were to happen for their own safety's sake. And secondly, it means that money is still in their hands. And so I don't sit comfortably with both of those things. And as a result, I would prefer people to encourage those speakers to withdraw. And then we could set up some sort of alternative arrangement, possibly in London instead. But the fifth thing was nominating it Video of the Year.
Absolutely. Now, what we'll do is I'll make sure all the links are put below. So I'll get you to send me the links after, and we'll make sure everything's there to get that happening. And definitely make that happen. Get the word out there. Look, and I guess possibly the one positive that may come out of this is it may actually force their hand to ensure that safety measures are in place. That's I guess if you can find a good thing out of a bad situation. So I guess to your thoughts, and you did ask the question about platforming Lawrence Krauss. I'll put that same question back to you. Do you think it's right for them to platform Lawrence Krauss?
So just a quick one. I'm not trying to avoid the question, but I've sent you Twitter DM with all those links and that details of that 5-stage tweet thing. You know what? I think if there's such a strong allegation and such a detailed emotional response, before platforming somebody like Lawrence Krauss, I would ask him and make public a specific response to such a claim. I don't think he's responded to Christina Rad.
I don't believe he has yet, no.
No, and that is, watching that video, she's trying to act out what he did, and he's got his, her hand under her skirt and then sort of turning it around to the thigh as he walks around her. Remember, this is the first time they've ever met. This isn't some touch you on the shoulder thing.
It's not an existing friendship.
Yeah, I work in a school, and just tapping a child on the shoulder is fine. I'm not sexually abusing anyone, right? I can touch on the shoulder and just say, "Oh, excuse me, please." That's it. That's fine. But it's getting to the point where you would definitely have to have a response from Lawrence on that specific claim, and I wouldn't platform him until I got that answer and obviously made it public to make people more assured of what his views were on that particular incident.
Yeah, and look, I guess you always have to give people the benefit of innocent until proven guilty. But when they're not even coming out and offering a defence, I can. There's plenty of cases where I guess people have been accused and they rush out and very quickly deny. But to not put anything out, but then to just go about business as usual, that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. But obviously, I don't know. I don't personally know the people involved, so it's I'll look at it from a neutral point of view. But I personally would think that it's probably not appropriate to have him, like you said, until it's at least been addressed. But not even that been addressed adequately.
Sure.
I don't think.
If he reacts like Lance did, then no.
No. Well, maybe that's why they're good friends. But maybe I'll leave that one.
Well,
So I guess that's the big thing that sort of happened this week. I guess as far as what you do and what's going on in the UK, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
The thing that's going on in the UK?
As far as what you do on your channel, and I guess atheist activism activism in the UK in general.
I can't remember the exact podcast I did, I remember mentioning this before when we went really deep on a particular subject, and then we said, right, we're now going to, I think we were talking about Brexit, and then we were going to lighten the mood with religion, quote unquote. And I wasn't sure if you were going down that route. We're going to lighten the mood now with Brexit or something, and it's like, oh, great, yeah, general election on the way. What is it? 11 days now till general election. So on the channel itself, I do it's mostly atheist interviews with various different people, trying to get to know them more personally, trying to apply their morality and their ethics into a completely different environment. Say, for example, I have completely normal conversations with Lloyd Evans about the football, because he's from Manchester, he's a Manchester United supporter, and Jehovah's Witnesses aren't necessarily allowed to be very sporting. So it's interesting to have that conversation with him and his passions towards something that his previous religion wasn't allowing him to do. I desperately want to get Alex O'Connor back to talk about veganism, future carnism, lab-grown meat, it potentially being more moral than veganism, that sort of thing. So anyway, everyone's been on apart from Atheist Pastor and Mr. Atheist, although he has obviously said in the past few days he's very willing to come on for a podcast.
Well, I can help you with the first one, but I can't help you with the last one. That brings up an interesting question. So who is your team? Who do you support?
Hayes and Yedding, for those who don't know. So I just need to check actually, because I don't know. In Australia, you do have promotion relegation.
Not for football, no. We've only just they're talking about bringing it in at some point, but they only relaunched. It used to be soccer in Australia. It used to be very ethnic. So there was the Greek team, the Macedonian team, the Italian team, and it was sort of divided along those lines. About 10, 15 years ago, they completely restarted the competition. So every team got kicked out apart from one, and they just set up brand new clubs. So we've been going through that rebuilding phase and rebuilding process. So we don't have promotion and relegation, but I do understand the concept, because my English team is currently sitting in League 2.
Oh gosh, and that's not Division 2 for people. That's the 4th division.
Oh no, that's the 4th division.
Yeah. So yeah, just to clarify, for those who are completely unaware, particularly the Americans, we have this thing called promotion and relegation, where we don't just have one division of 5 teams. It's like a full-on 20 teams for every league. You have the Premier League, Championship, League 1, League 2, which are obviously Division 3 and Division 4, but to just put that to one side for a second. Those 4 are the professional leagues, where you have to be full-time. Then below that is the conference. So you have the conference at step 5, as it were, and then it splits into North and South, and then it splits again into North, South, Isthmian, and we're in that league, the South of that league, my team. That's how far down we are. We're not even a professional team. But that's where I'm born. So my team. So I follow. I cheer for Scunthorpe, and we went from the Championship. We went down to League 1, and then out of nowhere lost our last 10 games last season. Went back down, went right down to League 2. Yeah. And I think if it wasn't for the fact that only one team gets relegated, we'd probably be looking at going to the conference. So that was a little bit frustrating, because it's hard to watch League 2 games from Australia, unfortunately. So. But that's okay. I'll keep looking at the results. It's one of those bizarre things where you end up having. Actually, I was talking about this last night at an event with a friend I haven't seen in a couple of years, because he's traveling all over the world, and he supports, as most people do around here, Reading, who are just about in the Championship, as the 2nd division, and we were talking about teams that we grow up with that are iconic in our mind. Like my generation, I used to remember teams like Charlton Athletic being in the Premier League. I don't know. I have no idea where they are right now. Like Portsmouth, who went into administration. There's teams like Wigan, who with Roberto Martinez, who's now the Belgium manager, they got relegated and won the FA Cup by beating Manchester City in the same year, like within a matter of weeks of one another. Now Wigan are nowhere, and now there's teams like Wolves that got relegated and now they bounced back, and now they're above Man United and Arsenal, and it's like there's
what about when Leicester won it a few years ago? I mean, who saw that one coming?
No, I was just about to say that, because I remember being a non-league football supporter. Somebody that I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but somebody may recognise the name Jamie Vardy, and he's not just striker for Leicester, scored the most in the most consecutive games in the Premier League ever. I think he got to 10 in the end, or 11. It was 11. It's heaven for Jamie Vardy was the commentary. So he got to 11 consecutive games of scoring in the Premier League. And that's his outright record right now. He used to play for a team called Fleetwood, and Fleetwood Town used to be in like the 14th division or something. By the way, our football pyramid goes down to the 22nd division. I've played at like the step 12 or whatever it was. I think I might have played a game or two at step 10. I can't remember. But technically speaking, me and my mates could set up a team, and if we get 8 back-to-back promotions, we would be at that stage. If you got 9-10 promotions in a row, tall ask, but you would be in the Premier League. Like you could
technically
set up a team down.
Technically, with the FA Cup, that goes down quite a fair few divisions, doesn't it? So technically, you could come from a low division, and I think there's been cases where teams from the, probably not League One, but definitely the Championship have won the FA Cup and then gotten to play in Europe
for a while. Yeah. So
definitely not for a while, but
I just I wanted to clarify because I didn't finish that bit, and my brain went, but because Jamie Vardy used to play for Fleetwood, and Fleetwood I think were in the 14th division or something like that. Got 8 or 9 promotions in like 11 seasons. Problems at Hayes meant that we went down from 5th division down to the 8th, and on the way past, we passed Fleetwood, and so I saw Jamie Vardy, who was this nobody, who's, by the way, never scored against Hayes, but he's somebody who then went to the World Cup with England, and it's like this brilliant story of this guy who's just gone out of like an academy somewhere, like a lot of the players we have at Hayes, where they end up being rejected by their academy at Chelsea or whatever, and then they get picked up by us, and they have to start from the bottom, and they have to work their way back up the divisions again. And it's this, this wonderful story about Jamie Vardy winning the Premier League and going off to play for England and and getting to the semi-finals of the World Cup and things like that. Sorry, what was your point about the FA Cup? Yes, FA Cup, for people who don't know, is this competition. It's a wonderful competition, the best cup competition and the oldest football competition in the world, which involves something like 750 teams. Now, if you're within the top 11 divisions, at some point you are going to play in the FA Cup. And so the way it works, the bottom divisions, to get my hands in the right way, bottom divisions end up playing off against each other in completely random score. It could be Division 7 against Division 11, whatever it is. And then that's whittled down to a certain number. Then you add the next few divisions, and those are the next few rounds. And then eventually, by the first Saturday of the new year, we'll be into the third round. So I think this weekend they just had the second round proper. Third round, first week of the new year, they'll add the Premier League teams. That's the first time the Premier League teams get into it. And so you could legitimately, once you're a non-league football team and you end up getting to this point in the competition, you might end up against a Manchester City, Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, and you might have them at your ground which normally gets 100 people watching. And it's a huge moneymaker for non-league football teams if you completely randomly, again, get picked out of the draw to face somebody. And I think Lincoln City in the conference got as far as losing 5-0 to Arsenal in quarterfinals. I don't think they made it to Wembley. at Wembley you have the semi-finals and the final. But
yeah, I lost your audio for a second there, so I apologise if this is something that this is the night for me. It's all happening. So I've had 3 things go wrong now, but so I'm hoping that's it. So that's right. And apologies if you already said this, but so if you're a low league team and you draw like a Manchester United, that's the huge gate, because the gate's shared, isn't it? That's the big financial incentive.
Sure. So in the FA Cup, you share all of the money. I mean, I think you get more if you come out the hat first and you're at home. Then that's a good thing. You get to host these really big teams, and you just get to fill it up with your just a really small town in the middle of nowhere that's hosting a Premier League team, multi-billion-pound team, and you end up having just that whole crowd is on your side, and it's got this really great feel about it. I can't remember who we were playing, but it's just that struggle of David versus Goliath. It's just so captivating.
Who doesn't love an underdog? I mean, really, you always want to see. I mean, look, I was going to say apologies to the Man U fans out there, but no apologies. I love seeing Man U get rolled. I'm not going to argue that. I guess I've always had a bit of a soft spot for. I say a soft spot. One of my best mates, he's a Leeds supporter, and every year we're going up. This is our year, and this is the first year he's actually been very quiet with it all.
The audio broke up for me slightly. I don't know if that was just like a roboting for me. I don't know.
Yeah, we lost you. Yeah, we lost you. Yeah, lost you there for a second, but it looks as though we might have you back.
Hopefully.
It looks like I can hear you. It's a little. It seems a little bit out of sync, but that's okay.
Yeah, it does look a little out of sync. But
there you are. You're back.
Say it again. Sorry.
Yeah. So I was just saying that one of my best friends, he's a Leeds supporter, and I guess I've been through the journey. Yeah, I'll never forget when Scunthorpe got promoted to the championship and Leeds missed out, and that was an interesting time for both of us. But we managed to get through it. But he's got a very big distaste for Man U. It wouldn't matter who they were playing, and I guess a little bit of that's rubbed off on me, because we don't get as much Premier League. You've got to be pretty committed to watch the Premier League over here, because most of our games are 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. So it's too late to stay up and too early to get up almost. So it's although when I guess daylight savings ends, we can occasionally get a game that's at a reasonable hour, like a midnight or a 6 in the morning, something like that, if it's a night game. But it does make it hard. But we've got over here, we've got rugby league and AFL are the 2 big ones. So
the Aussie football.
Sorry?
Aussie football. It's the second best version of football. I will give you that.
It's a pretty.
They're not wearing any armour.
Oh no!
Rugby's third, and then American football is just not even a sport. I mean, that's just. It's so American, so egotistical with all this armour and
I thought it was a pretty big thing in the UK at the moment, aren't they? Trying to get a team
growing, yeah. I'll admit I do watch it a little bit, but yeah, I think you always prefer the sports you grow up with, and for me, it's definitely rugby league, which is I guess for those who are probably not from England or Australia, it's different to rugby union, but only slightly. But different competitions. Yeah. I don't know specifically about the rugby, but I know rugby union's the proper rugby.
The original, yeah.
Yeah.
The original, yeah. The league was the northern version. It sort of broke off, and it was more of the working class game, whereas rugby was sort of the for I guess the the upper echelons, and that's sort of carried over into Australia as well. It was rugby league was very much the working man's game, and whereas rugby union sort of, you look at where the teams for rugby union are, and it's generally the more well-to-do areas or anywhere close to sort of some of the universities, whereas rugby league heartland, that's probably more the working class, the Battler, or what were the Battler suburbs, but probably a little bit more affluent. I think Sydney's the second most expensive city in the world now, so to live in. So we don't have cheap, unfortunately, anymore, which is frustrating. Well, good and bad, I guess. But all fun. Well, look, we've just clocked over an hour, so I do appreciate you coming on. Was there anything else you wanted to have a chat about or go over, or?
I'm going to have to check out the Nevadia stuff on Rachel Oates. To be fair, I did completely forget about it because this has been a good chat.
It has been, actually.
Briefly, before I go into that, I did see something somewhere. Theo. England has great clubs, just struggling with the national team. So who beat you in Switzerland? Is Theo? Who beat you in the Nations League? Who was it? I can't. Oh, it was us. Wasn't it? It was us. No,
I'm not even going to comment on the international stuff because we make the World Cup. Well, we never used to make the World Cup because we always used to have to qualify by playing a South American team. So we're in Oceania, so we'd flog down an American Samoa 20-0, but then we'd go and have to play Chile or something, and just got rolled every time. So it never seemed to work out. But we're in Asia. Yeah, we're in Asia now. That was part of the whole revamp. So when they did the reset on our competition, we also, part of it was we went into Asia. So it's made us a lot more competitive. We're attracting a better quality of player now, and it certainly helps. But it does well. Yeah. Our first World Cup, I think we made the quarterfinals, but then we haven't even got out of the group stage since then. But we have had, I think in one we drew Germany and Brazil. So you're never going to get out of that group. Doesn't matter how good you are.
Not at all. I wanted to Theo saying have no standard, we suck. I actually really think Switzerland have got a good chance, though. I think the Euros that we're hosting in England to an extent next year, because we've got the final, the semi-finals, and all three of England's group games. Switzerland are with who's in your group, Theo? Italy is the only real struggle in your group, in Group A. We're in a group with Croatia, which is a bogey team that we've had over the past few years because we lost in the semi-finals to the World Cup to them, and then we beat them in order to get to the Nations League, which is like this revamp of international friendlies to make it more competitive. So I really like the Nations League.
I haven't seen too much of it myself.
It's basically just filtering off like streaming ability of international teams, so that instead of having these Euro qualifiers, which are pointless, and you end up having England beating whoever it was the other week 7-0, 8-0, you end up putting what was England, Spain, and Croatia in the same group. One winner comes out of that to go to the semi-finals. There's also obviously ones for, I think France were with the Netherlands in their group. Netherlands and Germany were in the same group. So you have these really big games.
So that's going to be fairly competitive then.
Yeah, hugely. And it comes up, instead of having these international friendlies, which don't really mean anything, you're actually fighting for something, because in a group of three, the top team goes into the semi-finals to win the actual Nations League. And the bottom team of that three get relegated into the next group, which is like the second tier out of four. Okay. So the fourth would be like Faroe Islands, Gibraltar, San Marino, those really small, tiny countries that are all fighting together and are playing each other more often to sort of increase their standard and that sort of thing. So the Nations League was fantastic. And I have to say, before we clock off that I do think Gareth Southgate's done a great job. He's thrown in more recently since the World Cup. He's thrown in a lot of young players who will eventually get there, but I think it could have been for his own sake. You could have thrown them in not so fast into the team. It maybe staggered them a bit more, but ultimately he is doing a great job. And I could go into England DNA and all of that stuff because I have been a football coach for a number of years and I'm now a PE teacher, so I can go into a lot of detail on that particular conversation.
We probably talk for hours on that.
Yeah, but I know you're going to end up going to bed at some point. Was it?
Well, I did have a coffee before we jumped on, so I'm not quite falling asleep here, but I'm all good. And sorry, one other thing I was going to bring up. I've noticed you do a lot of gaming videos.
Sorry, I didn't mention it. Yeah.
What games? What's the latest one you're playing?
So just to clarify on the channel, it's obviously the podcast, as I mentioned before, talking to various different people and trying to sort of draw them out into a more futurist setting and talk about their morality and stuff. I've had some very interesting conversations doing that, but there's also the gaming side of the channel. So that's the podcast is DRP, the podcast gaming is DRG for gaming. We're mostly on Rocket League. I'll be joined most times by Char and Minnie, my in real life friends. I apologize in advance if they say something inappropriate, especially with all these new subscribers that have been. Yeah, especially with all these new subscribers that have come over from people like Mr. Atheist, and they're probably, at least I hope they can take a joke. They're going to have to. But
I was going to say they're going to be disappointed if they can't.
Yeah, the Rocket League is the main part of it, which is car soccer, as it were, and it's the mechanics of it are incredibly hard. It's one of those games like darts where the size of the board, the distance from the board doesn't change. Doesn't matter whether you're playing in RLCS and you're playing for a $300,000 prize pool or whether you're just playing with your mates. The game is exactly the same. So we're trying to learn how to go up the wall and then jump off the wall to then dribble the ball like into the goal. We're keeping the ball close to us. And I'm nowhere near it yet, but in 6 months, I reckon I'm going to get there.
I'll have to keep my eye on the channel to watch that. I'm hopeless at game. I love playing them, but I'm absolutely hopeless at them.
We just started the other day with Sea of Thieves as well, which is like this online multiplayer pirate game. So you're playing as a pirate ship with your friends, and then there's rival pirate ships as well. So like you're playing out Pirates of the Caribbean and you're looting their stuff. And yes, Theo, before you mention it, or whoever it is, I'll get onto Atlas at one point. Just keep reminding me. Is it on Steam? He keeps reminding me to play this bloody game. I will get there, I promise. Yeah, he's immediately put it in the comments.
Yep. There we are. We'll bring it up. We'll get that. So Atlas. I haven't heard of Atlas either. I'm stuck on. No. I'm obsessed with Civ 6 at the moment and Europa Universalis. So the strategy games seem to be.
Okay.
Yeah, it's if you ever want something that's absolutely going to dominate, weeks and weeks of your life, Europa Universalis 4 is the game to go. It's probably the most in-depth strategy game you'll ever see. It's essentially you start in 1444. You can play as any nation in the world at that time, and I assume any nation, and basically you've got to manage everything from. I mean, there's the military aspect where you can go and invade, but you've got to manage everything from it's royal marriages to the economics to development, and it will absolutely it's addictive. It will take up weeks and weeks of your life. Yeah, and no game's quick and no game's the same.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it, but it does sound quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out. But I'll apologise to you later if you do it. It's just one of those ones you keep going with. So
yeah, if I keep having a week like this, I won't have the time to eat, or
no.
So let alone gaming. But I am because I ended up having to download Sea of Thieves using my mobile data, because I'm using all of this using mobile data, including right now. Not that I have to run off anywhere. I'm just saying it has been running out. So yeah, I just have to sort of manage my output, my content. So over the next few weeks, I'm still gearing up towards the 100th podcast. I know there's a few people that are pretty much confirmed as to wanting to, but they haven't got a date down yet. So people like Mr. Atheist or Cyrus the Skeptic. There's one very, very interesting guest I could have on, and that's something that isn't quite there yet because we don't have a date. So I'm not going to say, but it's someone who I've had on the channel before.
But I watch this space.
All I'm going to say is they're currently doing something profoundly interesting with their lives, and they were the shortest podcast I ever had.
Okay.
So I'm going to put it.
There's clues in there. We'll let everyone work it out themselves. So as far as because obviously, like you said, this is you are working full time, and this is obviously it's taking up a lot of your time now. Where can people, if people do want to support you, where can people support you? Patreon?
Yeah, that's kind. Yes, so if I can eventually get this, I mean, by the time the subscribers are coming in quite fast at the minute, so I might end up being monetized by the end of next week. But it's taken a year already, but it might get to like 560 subs, and then it's just gone past 700. So yeah, there's a Patreon, there's a PayPal. I think I still include my Bitcoin link. You don't have to donate to that, but yeah, I really appreciate anyone who's willing to actually give up their not just their time to watch content, but their actual physically hard-earned dollar, because they don't have to do that. And I'm only a patron for Neil 64 Atheist at the minute, just because I feel like that sort of content needs to be out there. Screw not Jar. Why aren't you in bed? This is past your bedtime. Come on.
Oh, not Jar. Not Jar's not even real. Who is not Jar? Who's not Jar? We don't know. Look, I think that's one thing that is important. It's I guess it's something. The churches who are out there, they're always the first ones to put their hands up and ask for money and probably take money from people who can't afford it. And I guess I'd encourage anyone who can spare a few extra dollars. Look at obviously guys like David and some of the other content creators out there, because by helping them, it's only just going to increase the amount of content that can get out there, increase the message, I guess, and increase the presence that that atheists have. Because I mean, realistically, even in I guess Australia is reasonably secular. I understand England or the UK is pretty much the same, but the churches still seem to have a very loud voice out there, and they certainly have a lot of they have deep pockets. So it's important that I guess we all do what we can. So anyone who can afford to support people like David, I definitely want to encourage you to do that. And I'll put if you want to flick me the links to your Patreon, I'll make sure that that goes on the video, and anyone who can help, absolutely get behind it.
Yeah, they're at the bottom in the description of every single video I've had over the past few months or so. Yeah, if you go to the most recent ones, you'll have a in-date valid link to my Discord. Earlier links didn't work, but the more recent ones actually do. If you want to carry on the conversation.
I think that's where we were at, actually. I think Notjar was tormenting everyone on the live chat. So it's always Notjar. There we are. It may be even trying a pound.
Yeah, I'll have to get Notjar back on at some point. He is not, by the way, the other guest I was talking about, but yeah, I definitely have to get back into having a chat with him. I've had a couple of chats with him, chat with Navadia. God, what names is he? What name's he going by now? Osman Cometh.
Yep,
I think that's the most recent name. I haven't seen what he's been doing with his camera recently, but
yep. We actually had all those guys on a live stream. It was Friday night our time, so it would have been Friday morning your time. And needless to say, there was a couple of drinks involved, and it started off really good. And by the end, it was probably a little bit messy. It's Notjar took great pleasure in. I actually had to leave at one point because I was in absolute hysterics. So Notjar was happily saying, "I broke the presenter." So it's always good fun sort of seeing those guys and having all of them on. So yeah, definitely. So we'll probably wrap it up in a minute. Was there anything else I guess you wanted to have a chat about, or anything else you wanted to say to everyone out there?
Yeah, because I didn't manage to complete it. Yes, Jen, I'll have you on at some point as well. And anyone else who's currently scrolling through, just DM me on Twitter. My DMs are open. You're already invited. It's just I may end up forgetting if you don't send me a message, and then we get a date down.
We love you, Jen. We love you.
If we then get a date down, it definitely ends up on the whiteboard, as you have. Obviously, you're at the top there. So, yeah, that was the first thing. Second thing, I'm now going to head off into Twitter because it's lit up again. I think it might be something to do with last night's or the video about 24 hours ago that was released by Essence of Thought on Rachel Oates again. And that the only thing I wanted to say on that is because that Navadia's been sending out links to shut down their Patreon. And the reason I agree with that, regardless of where people stand on this issue, there has been not only bullying in the past, but even if we just completely forget everything that has come before today, and we haven't mentioned this in months, this whole issue, just the fact that they say in the description, and I've put it on Twitter, the screenshot of what it says in that video from yesterday's description. It says, I've been in contact with a friend of Rachel who's made them aware that this video is going out. And just before that, they say, I'm aware of her like mental health issues, whatever you want to call it, but I'm still releasing the video because I feel like my freedom of speech has been violated. And so they continue to then say, I've given them a heads up to go seek whatever help they need, or words to that effect. I'm paraphrasing from memory. And it's like,
ingenuous.
If I could paraphrase their paraphrase, I'm going to hurt you, and I don't care about. I know this is going to hurt you because I'm aware of your issues. Let's give you a few days just to prepare and brace yourself. And it's like, no,
but even you just can't do that. Even just like saying that and having that come out. I mean, that's bullying in of itself, even if the video doesn't come out after. And I think this whole. I think the whole drama, I think it's just gone too far. I think there's got to be a point where I think the community just says enough's enough, because it's gone beyond a joke. And look, I don't know Rachel personally. I follow her content and have done for a while. And from what I can see, she seems like a very genuine, very nice person.
Yeah.
And
she is.
And the stuff she's been targeted. Clearly being targeted, and it's undeserved. It's not even accurate. It's like it's basically it's Essence of Thought, from what I can see, is just picked out Rachel because it's getting reactions and it's getting people to Essence of Thought's channel and creating controversy. Which I think, if that's the goal, then I've got no problem with shutting them down.
Yep. I mean, from a matter of fact perspective, it violates the terms of service of Patreon. It's bullying. So
there's been a few comments. I'll put that one up. I won't put Jen's up, but I agree, Jen. But and look, I guess there is that fine line between freedom of speech and taking it too far, and I think this is one of those clear cases where I hate cancel culture. I'm not a fan of it. But in this case, I think it's more than warranted. I think Essence of Thought just needs to be cancelled.
Yeah, straight up. I have to say on that whole claim from Essence of Thought saying that they have been silenced. Hey, Navadia, that Rachel has done no such thing to silence Essence of Thought. Essence of Thought can still post on their YouTube. Essence of Thought can still tweet. It's Essence of Thought who blocked us and locked their account. They have shut themselves into a box. Nobody has gone onto their account. It's Essence of Thought that did that to themselves. Like nobody violated anyone's freedom of speech. You still, to this day, still have the freedom to be on YouTube, to be on Twitter, to be on all these social media sites and have your say. There is no physical way, unless the accusation is that Rachel has hacked their YouTube and has changed like administration privileges for Ethel, which obviously hasn't happened in a non sequitur style way. But yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, and YouTube, I guess, maybe needs to have a look at it, because I mean, they cancelled people like Alex Jones for his opinions, and he's got some horrific and stupid stuff out there. I actually don't take him seriously. I think he bungs it on, because no one could seriously believe some of the stuff he does. But then you've still got someone like Essence of Thought who's out there actively bullying someone, where there's been a public breakdown, and it's wrong. But anyway, I don't think there'll be too much argument from anyone here on that one. So you've got a big day and week ahead of you. So where else are you going to be if people want to catch up with you?
Sure. I just want to try and remember while I've got it in my head. Jeff, yes, you are right. We've both made playlists for all of the events so far that have happened, all the clips of the videos concerning Lance, my original stream, all the way up to Mr. Atheist's response and everything in between. That playlist is currently on my channel. It's under the name Lance or Chuck Gregorchuk. Which is a reference from Vila Bianca, who hosts Atheist Experience, who she initially came up with that. If you want to try and find that playlist, I'm sure if I can't see on here at the minute, but if Jeff is a mod, then I'm sure he can throw his playlist down in the description as well in the live chat. The second thing, I will be on with Steve McRae and Cheshire Vic. I'm not sure whether it's probably Steve's channel and Great Debate Community channel from 4 p.m. UK. So that would be in 3.5 hours. And then 3 hours after that, 4 hours after that, 8 p.m. I will be, UK time, 8 p.m. I will be with Nokosuchi on a panel with scientist Mel and a few others discussing consent and this general issue.
Well, I'll definitely miss the Steve McRae one, because that's at 3 a.m. for me. But my Monday morning, as I'm having my coffee and breakfast, I'll make sure to catch the other one. And so when's your next any plans on the next podcast yet, or who you've got on next?
At the minute, no. I've left the schedule out. As I referred to earlier, I want to try and manage my data. It's really annoying because I've got 150 gig of data between my phone and my iPad, and it takes about 2 gig per hour of live stream.
Okay.
But the Wi-Fi in the house is down for some reason at the minute, and it's shit anyway. So I've ended up using both for that and downloaded Sea of Thieves, which took like 40 gig or whatever it was. So I'm just low on data, and some months I have like 50 gig left over, and I want to try and use that right now. But instead, for now, there is no live podcast that's coming up. I know that I'm in talks with, I think there's Pine Snakes in the chat as well. Jen messaged me, not Jar, we'll get a date down. And I know Suris is interested to come on to speak about pronouns. Mr. Atheist might come on if we can get a date together, and also a special guest, but not confirmed yet.
Looking forward to working that one out, actually, or waiting for the announcement. So
something really big right now.
None of you have had, is it?
It's not David Worley interviewing David Worley. No.
Okay. Navadi just posted something interesting. Told that the tweet that I put out talking about reporting EAT's Patreon, that her Twitter could be suspended. That would be yeah. That's
why you're reporting somebody who was bullying.
Yeah,
on that platform as well. On Twitter.
Might be
yes, something. Nevada, I'll happily have you on again. I'll have anyone back on. Although, yeah, one or two might screen. But
warning here, we're in violation. Oh dear. Well, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We'll definitely do this again, because I do really want to continue because On Truth Wanted, we were having a really interesting conversation about
the girl
who yeah, sorry.
They'll clip it one day. Yeah, I was going to say the conversation about the girl who I'm teaching and have had follow-up conversations with at the school I'm currently still at for some reason. Somebody is going to replace me hopefully next week, but she believes that it was during Halloween week, and she said that she doesn't believe in ghosts because that's ridiculous. But then she very confidently said, "Oh, but demons are real." And I was like, "Where do they live?" I was like, "Hell, obviously." And so we went into this conversation about it, and she was citing this this YouTube channel where all the scientists, quote unquote, were claiming that all these demonic creatures were real, and they try and document all of these what they're called spirits and beings, entities that are obviously all completely made up. And I've had a follow-up conversation with her since, because she is half Hindi, half Sikh, and in her own words. And so yeah, I ended up teaching Sikhism to that class a few weeks back, which is kind of interesting, because we always say rational thinking should be taught in schools, and how do you go about teaching religion? I'm actually there. I'm one of the few people who have actually taught religion in a primary school, so within these circles. So I think I stayed sufficiently impartial throughout.
And actually, and that's something interesting. And if you do need to go, let me know.
No, not the slightest. Not for another, what is it, 2 hours?
Well, probably won't stay on for 2 hours, because it's it's only 11:30. Yeah. That's all right. So how do you go with because I used to teach religion in schools, and we've got what's called scripture. But I did that back when I was very much on the religious side of things. But your background, you're a lifelong atheist, Emma, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep. So how do you go, I guess, approaching religion? Are you teaching just the basics, or the historical point of view, or how do you go about?
The thing is, the school had Ofsted like the other week, who are the people in the UK that do like the official standards in schools. Like they go around checking whether things are to a certain standard for the government. So it's a very stressful time for the teachers, and we were told to like squirrel away because they didn't want to see any of what we do. We do PPA, which is planning, preparation, and assessment. So teachers will get 3 hours every week of planning, preparation, and assessment time to go over marking, whatever they need to do, planning lessons. And they then we come in and we do a rotation between PE, which is me doing the physical education, gymnastics, dance for this term, Spanish and music. And they will get not enough time basically to do each of them, but I then have to do various different things because that takes up like 7/10 of the week, like 7 half days. So another 3 half days I'm doing things like readers, just they read a few pages and then next person, and you just rinse repeat for the whole year group. If they're behind, then you do have daily readers, which end up reading every day, obviously, because they're behind. So I do that on a Thursday morning, and then on a Friday, it's just it's not even PE. It's whatever needs covering. Basically, I'm off printing stuff for the year 6s, like test papers. I'm doing whatever it may be, and I was teaching religion. It was only for one morning for these year 4s. So how I go about doing it, I will eventually answer this question.
No, that's okay.
Yeah. So the way I did it was to clarify that they came in from break. We're doing more about Sikhism. Is anyone here Sikh? 3 people put their hands up and say, okay, so I'm going to use them as their sort of clarification on pronunciations and things like that. So I start the lesson by clarifying all the different religions. So who's Sikh, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, or Hindi, Sikh, whatever, who doesn't have a religion, that sort of thing. So it's actually, I didn't add anything of personal opinion to the whole thing, but my teaching assistant was also trying to not reassure this particular child that it's okay not to have a religion because they don't have a religion. Like we're both teaching religious. Neither of us are religious, and she was saying like, "Oh no, it's okay. I don't have a religion either," kind of thing. So we then went through a PowerPoint, like a slideshow, and they watched a video to do with Sikhism, and I was trying to do research beforehand on Sikhism, actually I asked Lance, funny enough, funny how these conversations go in circles, about Sikhism, but then he gave a stupid answer on like I think he was addressing Abrahamic religions, and that's the whole point of asking that question, because that was a hard question, because nobody talks about Sikhism, nobody talks about Hinduism like Zara K currently is, you know, and it's all to do with Abrahamic religions and that sort of thing. And then as soon as people start to realize, oh, actually I don't have very much against Ocean, who's pagan, the anti-theist label falls, because you're not against the pagans, you're not really against the Sikhs.
So it almost becomes like it's we're just against the ones that we know about, whereas
anti-Abrahamic.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, the Hindu. I actually don't know too much about the Sikhs, but I know like things in Hindu Buddhism. Like there's some stuff that would probably make the Catholics sort of shocked. I can't remember the exact things, but I remember there was a TV show that we had here called John Safran versus God, where what he did was he had it was Buddhist or Catholic was the game he played, and he went and he had these quotes from that he was reading out from the Dalai Lama and the Pope, and it was was this said by a Buddhist or a Catholic, and some of the most horrendous stuff was actually came from the Dalai Lama, who it tends to be viewed as a fairly popular and nice, peaceful kind of guy. But
I think Hitchens went after her. Carry on.
Yeah, see, I've only heard bits and pieces of that, and I've only heard Hitchens' side of that. I've never looked into it too much, but that was some pretty interesting stuff. But Hitchens, he had no time for it, did he?
No. just trying to go through bits in the live chat. Yeah, because I really wanted to clarify as well that there are certain things which are obviously disagree with. Whether it's, I think it's, if I get this the right way around, so Sikhs still believe in the heaven and hell, like eternal torture idea. I think it's Hindus that end up believing in reincarnation.
Yep.
So either way, it's still factually wrong and it's ridiculous, and trying to, believe in this eternal life idea rather than this idea of having finite life, and trying to value it as we are, or at least I hope you are.
Yeah, I try to. That's the thing. It's often something that religious people will bring up. The old, the what if I'm right, and or what if if I'm wrong, then there's it doesn't really matter. But I look at it this way: it does matter, because if you've got one life and this is it, and you spend 1 in 7. Well, I guess 1/7 of your life going to church and putting money into an organization, when you could be putting that money back into your family or quality of life and enjoying yourself without having to go around with a worrying about, potentially going to a literal hell and suffering for all eternity. It doesn't compute for me. I mean, it used to, obviously, but now I just think we've got this one life, and you just make the most of it. I guess you do what you can with it. And why waste it? Why waste it and believe things that there's no rational belief or thought for? So, but obviously, I'm preaching to the choir here, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah. I if I may continue to preach, I completely agree. Yeah. I can't quite remember how so Connor worded it at Atheist Assemble. It's like, how much is a dollar worth for the millionaire? It's worth basically nothing. If you know you've got infinite amount of time, then today is just another day. It's just worthless. But if you think that, with various things like I've seen things that are still being mentioned, like on Neil's after party last night, I saw a little bit of it this morning where Strike got mentioned again, and how our vulnerability is constantly being put out there, how you could just go so quickly, and we are constantly aware of that. I don't think there is a day where I don't think about that, and thinking about, well, I've got to make sure I've got to look after myself. I do want to live into the next century. Hopefully, I'd have to be 107, but it's possible. So,
well, I think they're saying that people who are alive now should live to 150, just with the advances that we've got coming. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. And there was, I remember reading an article, it was a couple of years back, that said that someone who's alive today could very well be alive in 1,000 years, in some form or another. Yeah, it was one of those, obviously, the body will deteriorate, but there was other, ways of, I guess, keeping the brain going, or, potentially, it was a little bit science fiction-y, but it was sort of looked at and approached from, I guess, a scientific viewpoint, and saying that this is something that's possible. So, I mean, personally, it's the one thing, or the hardest thing for me. I know a lot of people, when they leave religion, they say they've got a fear of hell. That was never the issue for me. The worst thing for me was a fear of non-existence, a fear that just in 1 second, without even knowing, that could be it. That's me gone, because all you can really comprehend is your own thoughts and your own self. So that was the hardest thing for me, and that's something I struggled with coming into atheism, or I guess going out of Christianity initially, and then I went and looked at things like Hinduism, and I went to try and find something in a lot of those, but unfortunately, well, not unfortunately actually, but there was nothing. I just couldn't find anything else out there, and it took me a long time to accept that, you know what, one day it'll be over and I just won't even know. Hopefully not anytime soon, though.
Yeah, I should say, I'm just gonna, might as well just have the exclusive. If I've kept you here up for long enough. This whole conversation goes into transhumanism, which is this idea I was speaking last time I spoke about transhumanism, which is the merging of human and AI. Is way back when I was speaking with David Tamayo on DRP3. It was that long ago. I was still in America. The first 3 podcasts were done in America at that point, and he recommended to me that I spoke to a man called Zoltan Istvan, who I a few months later had on for DRP4, and I didn't realize that this camera had you just twist it and then it goes into HD. It was all blurry, but I could well be having him back on the channel. And the thing with him is he ran for president in 2016 in the US, and he's cut for the Libertarians. And I think he was an independent in California, and then he joined the Libertarians for a few years, and now he's running against Trump for the Republicans. So he could be quite interesting to have on.
So, and that whole thought of transhumanism, it is interesting, actually. It's because when you look at it, essentially, who was it? Now I am having mental blanks here. Elon Musk. Elon Musk actually
to you.
Well, see,
it's stronger.
I think last time we spoke, I think it was the middle of the day for me and about 1 a.m. for you. So we've reversed it. So as it's getting later, the brain's not working as well. So that's okay. As opposed to Friday night when I had all the Aussies on. At least this time I can say that the only thing I'm drinking tonight is water. So. Elon Musk came out and he said that in his view we're actually androids already, because if you have a look at our use of technology, and even going back to the stone, exactly, but even picking up a stick to hit an animal over the head, we're using a form of technology. It's even try. I actually had my mobile and internet went down for half a day. I think it might have been Tuesday, actually.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
I couldn't cope with it. It was really difficult to cope with, and I come from a time, I'm not that I'm that old, but growing up, we didn't have internet. We didn't have, it was the very early stages, but certainly there wasn't the connectivity that we've got now, and it was like I'd lost a limb. I almost didn't know what to do. I was desperate to find out what was going on Twitter, on Facebook, and realistically, I should have just gone for a walk or a jog and waited for everything to come back on. But it was actually quite distressing. But even as far as as how fast can a human travel? I mean, we can jump in a plane and fly to the other end of the earth. I mean, even right now, I mean, I think we are almost quite literally on opposite sides of the planet, and we're here having this conversation. So this is very much a part of how we communicate as a species.
In quite a high quality as well. I think we're still in high def.
Yeah,
but
good.
I have to say, I've just got the beep in my ear saying that this earpiece is going to die.
I had that before myself. So well, look, we will wrap it up there. Look, thanks for coming on. I've really enjoyed the chat, and absolutely we're going to have to do it again. I think there's probably a lot of things we've touched on, and probably a lot more we can go to. So whether it's on here or on your channel, absolutely, I think we need to do it again.
Yeah, I'll have you on anyway. Just get back into the Twitter DMs. Hello to Osman Comest as well, and anybody else who joined us late, like Nevadia, who was one of the people who wanted to punch Lance in the face. We love you very much, Nevadia.
Well, I felt really bad, and Navati is actually someone who has been a real big supporter of mine. I was trying to get to 50 subscribers the other day, and I was sitting at 46, and so I put something out there, and Navati has retweeted, and all of a sudden I've jumped up to 80 within the space of about sort of 24 hours. So I felt really bad before because I had this scheduled, and then I saw that Navadia had a premiere starting half an hour after, and I thought, I couldn't have timed that worse if I wanted. So my apologies to Navadia, although I would imagine that I probably wouldn't have even put a small ding in Navadia's audience. But no, it's one thing I will say. The Aussie atheist community is a very supportive community, as I found out, especially online. So a lot of love to you guys.
Sure thing. This is now going to immediately die. So
that's right. We'll end it there. Thank you very much. And make sure you like, share, subscribe, and click that alerts button, and make sure you jump on and support Dave. I'll have all the information down the bottom. And if you can spare a few dollars, support him on Patreon and help him keep fighting the good fight. Cheers. See you all.
Take care.